a little background with Carrie and I. About 8 years ago we met. And have you ever met somebody that right off you go, this is unusual. There's some connection here, whether it was through humor, experience, just amazingness in my opinion, because we are kind of funny when we hang out. At least we think so. You guys probably won't. We connected. It was unusual. It was just, that doesn't happen to me often, so I'm not just bragging about, oh, this happens to me everywhere I go. No, it rarely happens, but there was something there. And I totally value a lot that you're going to hear today. And I think there's a lot to glean from these stories. So with that being said, we're going to dive right in, Carrie, and this is your longer bio without a time limit necessarily. So, and one other disclaimer. We learned last year, because we're still learning, we're going to travel fast. So in some ways, it may seem almost borderline rude, but I'm going to pick up the pace so you stay engaged. We're going to have these stories travel rather rapidly, but that doesn't mean you can't ask them individually. Not just can't, I encourage you to. You know, my personality style, I've been told, is a challenger on the Enneagram, I think it is. So I'm challenging you, and I intend to do that this year. Go meet someone. Go have a conversation. Go just say, hi, I'm not used to talking to people like you. You scare me, whatever it is. Have the conversation. I would be willing to bet there's a number of you that could be hired or directed by someone in here that will be very impactful in your life. So I'm totally encouraging you, step out of that apprehension and just boldly do it. If nothing else happens, that will be how God uses this. So, Carrie, here we go. You ready?
I am ready.
I haven't ever seen you this serious. All right, so tell us a little bit about growing up. I'm going to fill in the blanks because I know you won't fill them in.
Okay, Ty gave me my own microphone, so I get to ask questions too. First of all, I just want to know the audience. So, students here, how many are seniors? Oh, big arms. How many are seniors? All the way up, I can't see them. How many are juniors? All right, so they're all graduating soon. How many know what they're doing after high school? Cool. How many want to be an entrepreneur? Okay, it dwindled. We'll change that. So you're at a Christian school. I don't know if you're a Christian or not. I am. So my story will be from a Christian worldview. I just wanted to encourage you, first of all, that you're listening to two old guys. Like in the gas tank of life, we got like a quarter tank left. You guys have like a full tank. All right. So if you aren't excited about life and having a full tank of gas, you got to redo your thinking because you have everything in front of you. You have opportunities galore, and I want you to be thoughtful and encouraged by what we talk about and have to say. Okay. Fun fact. Oh, who's the best note taker in the senior class? Okay, who has access to a pencil and a paper? Great, you are now the note taker. What's your name? Amy? All right, Amy, you're the note taker.
So what does note taker?
I didn't know you were. I like to tell my story in little sections of thoughtful comments. Not necessarily mine, but little quippy things. So the first thing is that nothing is random. Okay. God is in control of all things, and He interweaves all things in life. So why would you listen to two old guys that have a quarter tank of gas left and you got a full tank? Hopefully, what you get out of this is that the 3/4 of tank that we already spent, we have some life experience that you might be able to learn from or hear from. So that's my hope. Random fact for you. How many of you would like to have a job that makes $100,000 a year? Nobody. Go higher today. More than that, that's not enough. $100,000 is not enough. $100,000 a year. Okay. Trivia fact for you. 75% of accountants make $100,000 a year. 4% of social media influencers that work full time make $100,000 a year. So be careful about what you want to be. And be thoughtful about it. Do your research. Amy, number one, do your research. No, number one was, nothing is random.
I told you he was
Okay,
funny.
all right. What was the question?
Yeah, we're talking like, give us a little background about you, where you grew up, what was interest,
Okay.
what was, so we kind of get to know you just
Sure.
a little.
All right, we gotta go fast. So I was born in Montana, grew up in South Dakota. Through high school, I was a good student. I was, I'll say, a very good athlete. I was an all-state football player, all-state basketball player. I had a number of scholarship offers for playing football in college. I had an appointment to West Point and an appointment to the Air Force Academy, which brings me to fact number 3, Amy. You don't know what you don't know. So I had the choice of going to the Air Force Academy, West Point, or South Dakota State University, and I could play football at all 3 of them. And I chose South Dakota State University. Because I didn't know what I didn't know. And
Does this have anything to do with your grades?
no, my grades were good enough to get into all of them, so I was okay. But the point was that we were talking about mentors, right? So mentors, I didn't have somebody to tell me what education I would have gotten at West Point or what education I would have gotten at the Air Force Academy. And I chose the Air Force Academy actually, and then I bombed the vision test, and so I couldn't be a pilot. I could still go, but I had to be the navigator, and I didn't want to be the guy sitting in the back seat, so I said, well, that's not going to work, so I'll go to South Dakota State and play football instead. And as long as I'm there, I might as well be an optometrist because I flunked the vision test, and I was kind of curious about why I flunked the vision test. So nothing's random. Okay, so I went to South Dakota State University to play football. Played football there for 3 years. First week I'm there, I am at fall football camp, which is a grind. One of the guys that is on the team invites me to come listen to some guy talk in the evening, and I had nothing else to do, so I went ahead and listened to that talk. The talk was from a guy traveling with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, presented the gospel. I grew up a good little Lutheran kid, nice kid, didn't know what the gospel was. First time I ever heard the gospel was college football, freshman year, FCA camp. Amy, you ready? Okay, number 3 or 4, whatever it is. You don't know what influence you may have. Okay? So that guy presented the gospel. I was in the back, sat like this, listened. He got done. I got up, went back to my dorm room, went to sleep because I had to get up for football the next day. That guy has no idea that that's the first time I heard the gospel, and it was what led me to Christ. So, you're young now, but you still influence other people, and you'll be old someday, and you will have influenced people. Just remember that you don't know what influence you might have. So I get done with football. I get an opportunity to go to optometry school a year early. So I'm 3 years into football, and then my 4th year, optometry school calls me, nothing's random, they call me and tell me that they have a scholarship for me to go to optometry school for free for the first year. So they said, the only problem is, they called me on Thursday, you have to be here on Monday. So I took all my stuff, stuffed it in a duffel bag, got on a plane, flew out to Forest Grove, Oregon, to go to optometry school, and met my wife because I had to live in the dorms because I had nowhere to be. I would have gotten an apartment if I'd had time, lived off campus, never would have done it. So God intertwines and interweaves everything in life. I meet my wife, we date through college, get married, and our last year of school we get married. And then we're going to look for jobs. So I'm an optometrist now, and I go to take a state board. You have to take a board to be licensed in every state. So I go take a state board, and at the end of the state board thing, they have a little social mixer after, and there's this old guy optometrist, kind of like me now. I was young, kind of like you now. And he says to me, after a couple, probably too many beers, he tells me a story saying...
Oh, so this is, I think, important, and we could miss it. So there this gentleman is, you're in some establishment, and he's had a few sitting at the bar or something, and he gave you words of wisdom.
He gave me words of wisdom. Wisdom comes from lots of places. So he said, Carrie, optometry is a long profession. You got to learn to pace yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Amy, you got that? It's a marathon, not a sprint. Very good. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't burn yourself out. Like, take your time. Be thoughtful. So there I'm ready to go to my work career now.
Okay, well, you know, we could have done this solo because you're doing a great job. So let's go to your work career.
Okay.
So when you finished optometry school, that was in Washington or Oregon?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Oregon, kind of like, I don't want to get the Dakotas mixed up.
Right, don't
Because
do
you
that.
gave me a lecture
No,
about that when you
no.
talked earlier. South Dakota.
Everybody thinks that South Dakota is like a state. No, there's North Dakota and there's South Dakota.
And the city you were from, every state has a city name.
Yes, Madison. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's just a little more filling in some of the voids. So you're in Oregon, you take a job. Where do you go? And then
Yep.
kind of tell us that path.
So only kind of mentor that I had in optometry school to figure out where to go to school was a friend of mine that had gotten out of school. He went to Wisconsin and took a job at a practice in Wisconsin. And so I ended up doing the same thing. I moved to Wisconsin, became an optometrist. Fun fact, you don't have to put this one down, Amy. 90% of optometrists do not stay at the first practice that they practice at. Why is that important to you? Because you probably won't take a job and stay there for your whole life. That's okay. Don't feel bad about that. You heard every one of these entrepreneurs in here has done something, and then they did something else, and then they did something else. I did optometry for 45 years, so, but I didn't do it at the same place.
Multiple places.
Right, didn't do it at the same place. So we're in Wisconsin, and I'm thinking, I want something more than this. I'm working for someone else, and I wanted something more. And I didn't like the snow in Wisconsin, and I had a friend in Arizona, so figured Arizona was it. So moved down to Arizona, worked for a couple of other guys, but I think what you'll see in this is there's just a natural progression in life. So I went from working at a practice just as an employed doctor, took a position down in Arizona with a couple of doctors that had lots of different optometric practices. They had optometric practices in like 6 states. And so I became the manager at one of their offices here in Arizona. Ready, Amy? Don't overextend yourself. That's entrepreneurship next. So these guys were super successful in Texas, and they bought practices in a whole bunch of other states, and they expanded too fast and they went bankrupt. So I worked for them for a year, boom, they're
So I
out.
was gonna say, you picked the right place, but then you dropped the bankruptcy thing, so now you go, maybe not so fast, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so now I'm almost without a job because the guys are bankrupt, but fortunately, I was able to take that practice over. And in taking that practice over, what I did know was the reason that practice wasn't successful was strictly that it needed time to grow, and they just didn't have enough money to last long enough to let it grow, because the practice was already semi-successful, just not enough for them. So I took that practice over, and ready, Amy? Don't reinvent the wheel, okay? As an entrepreneur, you like to think you're gonna know how to do everything, but sometimes it's just easier to do what somebody else did. So these guys were super successful, they knew what they were doing, they just got overextended. So I took their policies and procedure manual, I took everything that they had and crossed out their name and put my name on it. I didn't need to reinvent that wheel, they knew a lot more than I knew, and I was just like, I'm taking your stuff.
So can we pause here on this, and maybe you're gonna lead to it. So it didn't work for them, they're going bankrupt, they have them all over the western US, and you just decide to change names and it's gonna work?
Well-
Sure. No, that's good.
All right, we're gonna pause there. He said 2 things: don't overextend yourself and don't reinvent the wheel. So could you entrepreneurs chat with the kids around you about that reality in your life? Either one of those 2 or both that you want to talk to the students about your experience for about 4 or 5 minutes. Did you overextend yourself? Did you reinvent the wheel? What did you learn through that? Let's just pause for a minute, let the students engage with you for a second.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to assume that went well in great interaction, and it's just beginning. So, we're going to do multiples of these throughout the year, give these opportunities. So today may be the first one where you get to connect with someone or just say hello. There'll be other people, other times, that won't always be the same. And this is our second year. We're just giving this a shot. And why are we giving it a shot? Because I think God put on many of our hearts the importance of, we kind of threw that term out earlier, intergenerational conversation, but it's being lost in today's world. And so we either use our digital devices and think it's communication, or we just stay within our own sphere of peers, but we don't necessarily branch out. So this is great. Thank you for doing that. Here we go. So let's see. We can pick up the story. Some of the high times of being in business. You took over this bankrupt thing. You put your name on it. How'd it go?
It actually went really well because in optometry, the first year is the hardest because everybody is coming in for the first time. The second year, everybody's coming back for the first time, and there's more people coming in their first time. So you just have to take your time like any business and make it build. So yeah, it went well. I was actually, God granted me a lot of success. One thing, it's a funny little story that I started and I didn't know a lot. Ready, Amy? You're going to make mistakes. All right, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to make mistakes. Try to make small mistakes. You can recover from those quickly. Big mistakes are a lot harder to recover from. So I've got my business right. I'm taking over. I'm getting bank accounts. I'm setting everything up. And the guy walks in to give me the credit card terminal that you swipe the credit card with, right? You go to somewhere and you swipe the credit card. Well, he said, yeah, this is a credit card terminal. We're going to get that for you. We're going to lease it to you. You pay $100 a month, and I lease it for 4 years. Cool. Where do I sign? Signed up. 4 years later, I find out that $100 a month credit card terminal that I paid on for 4 years, which was $4,800, I could have bought for $1,000 on the front end and just had it as my own. But I didn't know. So
What would have helped you know?
what would help me know is if I had talked to somebody else about it ahead of time and figured that out. So that's where the whole mentoring thing, don't reinvent the wheel, go find somebody that knows what they're doing. If I found one of these finance guys and they just said, hey, that's not a great investment, I would have been way better off. So, but I survived it. It was a small mistake, right? I didn't sign a 10-year lease on a building that I couldn't afford, so that was good. And I went on. Over time, I found out that me seeing patients, I could only make so much money and only get so much done. So I started hiring other doctors to work and see patients for me. I started getting multiple practices over the course of my career. I probably had 10 practices that I bought and sold and had partners in. And at the end,
Partners brings up a topic.
Partners, yes.
Amy again, right?
Amy, you ready? Okay. Don't be unequally yoked. So there's a biblical concept about being unequally yoked. Anybody understand what that is? Okay, that in the Bible primarily talks about marriage. And the idea if you're a believer, you don't want to marry an unbeliever. And why is that? Because you don't have the same values, you don't have the same worldview, you don't have the same moral code, it's different. So a partnership is not much different than being married. So if you're going to be in a partnership, you want to make sure you're yoked with somebody that you have the same values, the same moral code, the same worldview. A friend of mine down in Phoenix, super successful guy, has multiple businesses, multiple partners. He always says, I would much prefer to be a benevolent dictator than to be an equal partner. And what he means by that is if you don't have control in the situation, it's just much harder. So as an entrepreneur, you should always think about that. It's not wrong to have control.
That's good. It's not bad to have control. That's a good one. Very good. Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up this professional thing. If you had to list a couple high times in it, what would you be listing? Because oftentimes we go through heroes, high times, hard times, hand of God, and heritage. Heritage was your early years. We touched on heroes throughout, everywhere from the bar to a very successful businessman. That might be the most diverse spectrum I've heard of so far. So high times, touch on a few of those, and then we'll go to hard times because they're real.
Yeah, yeah. I think high times was probably just when we were really successful with what we did. We kind of had the formula. We knew what patients wanted. We knew how to get there. We had a purpose in what we were doing. We had a motto in our practices that we said we always put the patient first, put the practice next, put your peers after that, and put yourself at the bottom. And the concept was that do what's right for the patient, don't screw it up for the practice, be kind to your fellow coworkers, and if everyone does that, even though you're on the bottom, it's still going to all work out just fine because everybody's trying to help one another. So having that formula and having that work for us was probably high time.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so one of the more difficult ones, but one of the ones where perhaps it's most influential or has the most impact, hard times. What would you like to share?
Yeah. So financially successful. I'm an elder at the church. I'm a school board member. I have successful practices. I have a competitive pistol shooting hobby that I love. I have a great wife, a couple kids that are great kids. No, I do have great kids.
And a sense of humor.
And a sense of humor, yeah. And my wife does. All of a sudden, money didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Hardest time of my life. She passed away. We went between Phoenix and here. Ty was my best friend in Prescott. Danette was my wife's best friend in Prescott. I was trying to skim through this so it didn't get hard, but it's hard. But in the midst of that,
Sometimes God, I'm giving you a breather.
Yeah.
Sometimes God doesn't let us skim.
yeah,
And it's in His infinite wisdom that hopefully through that there is, obviously, that being shared, other people have gone through hard times, maybe not identical, but similar.
sure.
Or they're going to go through hard times, or they're going through hard times that aren't the same as that, but they're hard. And hard is hard. And I know throughout this, and I even put it in your little brief bio that I sent out in an email, the hand of God, the hand of God, the hand of God. And that's where, even when we visited for a short time last week, it was so evident. You live with that sitting right here. All this is in the hand of God. So with that being said, I'll hand it back.
Yeah, so my wife passed away. I remember saying to myself, cliche things that people say when somebody dies, like God's in control, God has a plan for your life. They sound cliche. I hung on to those things. Those were the things, that's the way I got through it. And so it was true. And there's nothing random. God's in control. All of a sudden, my friend Ty and my friend Danette walked through life with me. Talk about mentors, right? Introduced me to my wife, Dee Dee. I'm like not a charismatic guy. Like I'm as charismatic as this chair. Nothing ever happens to me. God doesn't talk to
That
me.
might be the funniest thing I heard all day right there.
God doesn't talk to me. And I met Dee Dee, and the second time I met her, I looked at her, and it was like, I think she's the one. It was like God just like put her there. So, new chapter in my life. What a great chapter in my life. I've got a new wife, new kids, new grandkids, and so you look back at life and you see God intertwines all of this. What if I went to the Air Force Academy? Wouldn't have been my first wife. Wouldn't have been an optometrist. Wouldn't end up here. Wouldn't have a new wife. I mean, it's all connected, right? So you can look back when you're old and you can see that. And so If there's anything to take away from the hard stuff, is that there's a new day coming.
That's great. And thank you for, one of my friends introduced me to this phrase. He said, vulnerability is a magnet. And I think really what that means is vulnerability is real for everyone. We need to be vulnerable to allow people really into our world. And even you and I, we use our humor to avoid vulnerability, which is fine, but then sometimes we're not as funny as we thought, so we better just get real. So thanks for taking the time. What I think we should do now, unless you have anything else you want to share, is maybe just get a few questions for Carrie, and then we'll kind of do our timeout, our intermission, and go into the second one. And Carrie will be here for the second half of this, correct?
Yes.
Feel free to ask him anything there that you may not want to ask him in front of someone. As you can tell, he's real. He's watched God work, and he wants to be here for you. And if there's something you didn't understand or forgot, see Amy, because I'm certain she took really good notes. Right, Amy? All right. Anyone have a question for Carrie?
Before I question, I got just a couple quick things for Amy to write down. I got two others that I wanted to say here. Amy, this is not intended for you, but don't be a shallow coper. You know what that means? A shallow coper, like coping with life. Don't cope with life, don't be shallow. Like, this is a guy thing, actually. Guys are shallow copers. Girls kind of get deeper. They go deeper into things. Guys, they just want to skim along the surface. But you need deep friends. You only got time for a few deep friends, but you find those kids that are like you, and you find those deep friends you can hold on to.
Which brings me to something you mentioned to me before about someone that invited you to dinner in Wisconsin.
Yeah. So this is a funny story. So my wife and I moved to Wisconsin, and we go to this little church, and these people after church invite us over, and they're 10 years older than us, and they got a couple little kids, and we go over there and hang out with them, and then they invite us over again, and we go over and we hang out with them. We did like that 4 or 5 times, and then we moved, and after we moved, I realized that guy was trying to mentor me. I was just too dumb to realize that that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to like pour into my life, but I hadn't figured that out at the time.
Were there seeds planted or water? Or?
Absolutely, yeah. Seeds and water were all there, right? I mean, you see someone that invests in you, and then you realize, hey, that's something that I should do. And so it's important. And you guys are young now, but man, you're going to have all kinds of opportunity to get into people's lives. Last one, and then you guys questions. Sorry. One of the questions Ty asked me is there something nobody talks about being an entrepreneur that you would like kids to know? And I wrote this down. I said, if you want to be great at anything, Amy's is a long one. You don't have to write this down. It'd be really good if you did. If you want to be great at anything, you have to sacrifice something else. Make sure it's worth it. So, I said that I like to shoot guns. So I've done competitive pistol shooting all my life, all my adult life, and I love it. And I shot competitively when I was younger, and it was pretty good. And I finished 8th in the nation in the sport that I was in. And I looked at this leader list, and all 7 guys above me were all professional shooters. That's all they did. And I was like, dang, beating those 7 guys is going to be pretty hard. I was pretty lucky to be 8th, actually. But I had to decide, do I want to be great at this, and is it worth it? And I said, well, what am I going to give up? Am I going to give up coaching my kids? Am I going to give up being an elder at the church? Am I going to give up being on the school board? And I couldn't find any of those that was worth it. So I took all of my stuff, thousands of dollars worth of guns and equipment and stuff, and I sold it all. And I had to sell it all because otherwise I would have been drawn back to it and back to it and back to it. And so I said, well, I'll just give that up for the time being. Now I shoot again now because I got rid of my kids, and I could do what I wanted to do. But the point is, finding balance is hard. So if you're going to do something and be really, really good at it, just make sure that it's something worthwhile being really, really good at, because you're going to give something else up. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, that was great. Fantastic. Questions? Anyone have a question they'd like to ask Carrie while we're in this forum versus individually? Please feel free. It's welcome. And my guess is you're not the only one that might have that insider question. Patrick, I should have known.
Hey, I got a question. Thank you for sharing. If you look back on your professional career, are there certain things that you look back and say, I would have done that differently, knowing what you know now, and kind of what that what some of those things might be?
Sure, absolutely. I think even though I was an entrepreneur, looking back, I would have done things differently in the way that I ran my practices. I would have probably expanded more. I probably would have done just some of the nuts and bolts of it differently. And that's a great question, and here's the thing. Most people don't succeed at something because they never try. Okay, usually you think too little of yourself, not too much of yourself. So you have to believe in yourself before you can get anything done. So believe in yourself. And if you're a friend of someone that wants to do something, believe in them too. Like there's plenty of people in the world that will chop you down. So you don't need to chop your friends down, right? You don't need friends that are chopping you down. You want somebody that's going to be an encouragement to you and be an encouragement to others.
Wow, that was good. And I'm certain Amy got it because I saw her scribbling.
Poor Amy.
I know, she didn't have any idea
You
what
should
her
have brought a
kind
pencil.
gesture, was gonna lead to. Any other, and thanks, Patrick, for bringing that up. It's good. And you know what's funny is the mentoring isn't just for the students. This is a prime example of this interaction, and it's amongst us as adults, grown people, experience, so it's really valuable. Someone else raised their hand. Yes, please give your name so we start to get to know who you are.
My name's Haley. You mentioned overextending yourself. At what point do you know that you have done that? Like before it's too late?
When you go bankrupt. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's really hard because sometimes you can overexpand, you can overextend yourself and still be successful. But at what cost? Which goes back to the whole thing of what do you want to be great at? So that's a hard question. I think probably a big piece of it is to get advice and listen to people around you as to what you're doing and have good input. From a business standpoint, you have to be careful of getting overextended. Primarily it's financially, but it can be just in effort and time too.
Along that line, it made me think of something I heard a long time ago about polite yes. So if you have people around you, people that truly love you and want the best for you will not always say yes. They'll give you the honest, hard truth. The opposite of that is a polite yes. Oh yes, that's good, Carrie, keep going, just buy them all. Oh, you're gonna be, so you don't want that encouragement that's polite, but you want it from a sense of a true loving friendship that cares about
That's great.
you.
That's really true. Yeah, you want honest friends. You don't want friends that are just polite. That's a great way to put it.
No polite friends, they need to make it brief.
Last thing for me. Sometimes you just have to grind, Amy. Get this one. Sometimes you just have to grind. Like things are hard. Jenna played basketball at Grand Canyon University, and every year we had a conversation about her wanting to stop because it was hard and she had to work. But she ground it out, and she, in fact, brag about it, she had the record for single game most 3-pointers in a game at 6 3-pointers at Grand Canyon University, which she held for 5 days until her friend had 8 the next game. So it was a fleeted moment.
You're not a polite.
But she ground it out. And sometimes I used to tell her, you can do anything for a year. And so just remember that. You can do anything now you can't hold your breath for a year, so don't try that. But you can do anything for a period of time. If you need to hold your breath, you can hold your breath for a minute. Right? If you need to go without eating, you go without eating for 3 days. But sometimes you just got to grind stuff out. It's not fun. There's no pat on the back. You just do it. And that's true of school. It's true of all of life. So anyway, good.
All right, I don't know you guys, I thought that was outstanding, and I gleaned a lot, so let's thank Terry for his effort. Well, you can stand up a minute, everyone can see you. Some know you because you're a Trinity parent. Kelly Smith, by the way, 3 kids. Patrick, who was willing to ask the question earlier, is Kelly's husband. So with that, we'll sit down, we'll have a chat. Now, a little bit of, I had a disclaimer with Carrie, but yours will be totally different. Because Carrie, he can make, he just makes certain things happen and, but you're more
Different?
yeah, that's better, yeah, you're different and that's good. And that's one of the reasons I thought this would be really interesting because there's a contrast going on. Not everyone's the same. Now I want to talk just a moment about entrepreneurship because some people think being an entrepreneur is only the app developer, the high money, risk-taking, loan shark style, extroverted personality, innovator, whatever. And it is some of those things. So I think there's a component of creativity, innovation, hard work, risk. I'm sure I'm missing some, but they'll get highlighted, I think, as we talk. So I wanted to kind of put that out there because I also think it's really, really important that we have this conversation because there's, I don't know about half, but close. The girls in here are going to have some of the same challenges you may have walked through as they had to think about what's their future? What are they going to do? Why are they going to do it? Is it all for naught? Is it all of everything? So those are difficult choices, topics that you had to walk through. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit. We're going to start in heritage. Remember, we got H's going on here. Family, early years. Tell us a little about it. And if you decide I've said enough, I may ask a few questions in the meantime.
Okay, sounds good. I grew up in Flagstaff. Was born and raised up there. I had one younger sister. Just was raised in a Christian home with wonderful parents. I invited my mom today. She's back there watching my youngest daughter. Yeah, you're doing good, Mom. I met my
Encouragement, that's one of your gifts.
I know. I met my husband who's standing in the back when I was probably in a stroller. I was a baby. We grew up together.
That's
and-
kind of a confusing
Yeah,
thing to
elaborate.
just throw out there. So, I gotta get
Gotta put some context to that.
so your families knew each
Our
other.
families knew each
He
other.
was a little older.
Yeah.
He was capable of pushing the stroller. And so you kind of met, but you were around each other from early years.
Yes, grew up all together, family trips, and lots of fun memories, and it didn't obviously start dating until college years, but, had our whole life together in Flagstaff, and, just wonderful parents, wonderful family life.
On that note, because I think it's really valuable, Deanne, wherever you are, will you stand up a moment?
We stepped out with.
Oh, there she is. That's Deanne, that's Kelly's mom, and I think so often, I think it's so cool to have her here because there's such a sacrifice made by parents.
Yeah.
As we get older, like Carrie and I, we're kind of way up. We're almost empty, if I recall. As you get older, you realize that more. But as a young person, either a full tank or 3/4, you may not.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to identify
Yeah.
and encourage and be thankful. And you have done that. So good
But
job.
when we met last week, Ty asked me, like, who are your heroes? And I'm trying to think of, like, public figures, or, like, people that I felt like had a huge influence in my life. And I was like, I don't know who my heroes are. And Ty goes, what about your parents? And he goes, you speak so highly of them. And I was like, oh, yeah, my mom and dad. Like, I hold them so high. And so it just was such a good time of reflection to be like, yeah, my mom and dad, like, they sacrificed a lot and they gave a lot and they, like, guided us well and just were wonderful parents.
And the reason I brought up why not your parents, because I had heard enough of your story.
Mhm.
And you referred to them multiple times. And I'm like, and so sometimes, in our haste or in our, we have to have some
Yeah.
incredible story, we neglect to be
Yeah.
so thankful for some things were handled. Cool, so keep going. So, great parents, met Patrick at 3 or whatever it was. Keep telling us about it.
Just a wonderful life growing up. I felt kind of called in high school to do some international mission work and took my first trip when I was about 16 to Ukraine to teach English and teach about the Bible and just wanting to travel and adventure. And so I took a trip to Ecuador when I was about 18 to do another trip. And that kind of spurred me. I wanted to study abroad, so I did spend my junior year in college in Spain, just to be able to expose myself to more Spanish and live abroad and continue to adventure. But yeah, that kind of brought me to like college years. We had talked about, in high school, my biggest hurdle, I guess, my hard time from like my childhood age was, I got hit in the back of the head by a jet ski at Lake Powell. And we were all swimming in the water. We had done this summer after summer, and one of my dad's friends had driven a jet ski and just got too close and hit the back of my head and sliced my head open and dislocated my jaw. And so I was a mess for a while. And in high school, I feel like your whole world is about, my whole world was sports and friends. That was it.
Is that when you started to see Patrick differently after?
So, it just was so eye-opening. You know, I couldn't play soccer anymore. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do, lost friends over it, and that was such a hard thing when you're without your whole world. So it was such a reminder that just life is short, and I was, you know, millimeters away from losing it, and it was
Losing it as in your life.
losing it in my life, yeah. Yeah,
That's
very
big.
traumatic. And, yeah, just shifted the way I finished out high school, which I think maybe is why I started pursuing the mission trips and really diving into Jesus, because I was losing the other things of this world, the sports and the teams and some of the friends and stuff like that.
And
So,
why did you lose the friends? I understand sports, you had to be off of them for a while, and so somewhere in there just became
yeah, I don't know,
interesting.
I'm not a part of it anymore, I don't know.
And then if I draw back to what we just heard before about the hand of God,
Oh,
and
yeah,
how, and you brought that up when we had a conversation,
Yeah.
you see it,
totally used that for good, yeah. Yeah.
that is so good.
Mhm.
Thanks. Okay, so you're going through the high school years, obviously doing sports, great family. There's a lot of high times in there, and then boom, one accident, a split second. Now you're going through one of the hardest times in your life. But it gave you opportunities to go experience other stuff, like you mentioned, with the
Yeah.
mission trips and all.
Yep.
So, and I think I highlighted this somewhere, but so did that have any impact on like your propensity, your style to care for others?
Oh, tremendously. I think it helped me to realize that I wanted to serve others. I don't know if I knew that until those trips, and like my parents were trying to foster that and figuring out what career track to kind of put us in. But I think that helped me to go, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to serve people. I want to be able to help people. I want to tell people about Jesus. And that was a way to do that. And then to try to have my parents kind of use that to shift me, like, how are we going to use this in a job-wise? What does this look like for you? So,
That's great. I had a thought in there and then I lost it, and sometimes that happens.
it's okay.
I'm not gonna call it one of those senior things or whatever,
That's
but
okay.
I
We
think
don't have
everyone
to.
goes
It's okay.
through this, right? So we're gonna take a break in a minute, but before we do that, one of the reasons that I asked you to do this was I ran into a senior from last year. She's here today, Lydia. She's quieter, so but you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself, Lydia, so stand up. Yeah, oh yeah. I love to do this, actually. Stand up, please, please. Because all the adults, parents, whatever, don't know you. The students probably do because you were older than them. So this is Lydia Anderson. So I ran into Lydia one day and said hello, and we had a brief conversation. Go ahead, you can sit down now. You probably anxious to do that. And Danette's over there consoling her because she knows how to be. No one wants to stand up that doesn't want to stand up. Anyway, we had a brief conversation. And I said, wow, that's interesting. She was complimentary of Seeds and Water and shared just a little bit about how it had impacted her. And then, so I said, I'd love to either meet with you and learn a little more about this in the right setting, or draft me a letter or something. And so I sent her off an email. She said, she gave me her contact info. I sent her a quick email. It was like 2 weeks later, and I didn't hear anything back. I go, well, that didn't work out so well. Well, then I heard back. She was out of town, probably didn't have email, so she wrote this really nice long letter. And in it were two of you that are here today. You were one, and the other was Drew. So apparently, she had and I probably had this story wrong, but I'm going to embellish it because when you're up here at the microphone, you get the...
You can.
Yeah, you can. Very well put. Patrick and I both know that,
Yes.
and Carrie a little bit. So anyway, you had a conversation with Drew. You talked about some of what you like. Drew introduces you to Kelly. Sorry. Now tell us about your vocation, what you went into, and a little bit about that story. But I
Okay.
wanted to at least give Lydia, because that was key.
Yeah, and there were a handful of people that had been interested at Seeds and Water last year that were interested in speech therapy. And so Lydia was one who had contacted me and we kind of connected, and then I was able to give her some resources of people in town in the speech world to try to get her plugged into other contacts in the community, which I feel like is what this whole thing is about, is trying to plug into connections. I feel like that's when, like, even looking back on the last 15 years of my life, I'm like, it's all about community and connections, and who you meet knows this person, and God has his hand in the whole thing, putting me right with the right people. But so I went into the world of speech pathology when I started college. So I did my undergraduate at NAU and then went to graduate school at the University of Northern Colorado. And I had always said I wanted to be a teacher, and I think my parents would have been fine with that, but they were trying to figure out, okay, what is it about being a teacher that you like, and what are the other opportunities that might be like that where you're serving others that we could expose you to. And in doing so, they connected me with some other adults in their world for me to talk to ask questions about speech therapy, because I didn't know anything. And I was about 17 and had a couple conversations with family members and then a couple other contacts, and it was like, oh, this is this whole world. I don't know anything about the therapy world. And so I ended up going into school for speech pathology and got my master's, and then kind of had to decide, do I want to go pediatrics or do I want to go adults? And to be frank, I looked at the pediatric world and I was like, I could go make $30,000 or I could make a lot more if I go into adults. And so I went in with adults, and I really loved the medical setting, so I knew that was kind of, I needed to kind of follow that route. And
So it's clarification, I think I know the answer. So when you had your jet ski accident, did you have to go through any speech work?
I didn't, but it had dislocated my jaw, so I had to go through a lot of like facial work to like massage and work to get my jaw to go back and then to relax. And there was just a lot of pain in my neck and my face. I can't describe it. It was like pain in my bones is what, like, it would just go all the way like deep in my face. I couldn't, just a lot of pain. So
Wow.
I didn't have like speech work, but yeah.
Okay, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I did.
That's okay.
So you went to Colorado. That was undergraduate or graduate?
Graduate. So
So-
Patrick and I got married, and then
You
went to
met
graduate
at,
school.
oh, you met because you knew each other at 3.
Yeah.
Did you go to the same college?
Nope. We
But
went-
you were still in close proximity?
Yep.
And he was cool at 5 or whatever it was, and you just thought it was cool forever.
Yeah, cool forever. Yeah,
Still
we'll
is.
always be cool.
Yeah. If you don't believe me, we'll ask him later, I'm
Yeah,
sure we'll get the
exactly,
confirmation.
exactly, yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so then you go to Colorado, you do the graduate degree, what's after that?
So we just knew we kind of needed to follow my career for a little while. So I took a job in Texas and started doing some speech work there. And we lived in Texas for a couple years, and then we moved to Florida for a little while, and then decided it was time to raise a family and wanted to be back in Arizona. Both of our parents were still in Flagstaff, and so we wanted to come back to Arizona. And my sister was living here in Prescott at the time, so we really wanted to come back to Prescott, and so we chose Prescott. And
So your decision, your vocational decision, what you want to study, took you to Colorado, Texas, and then back?
Florida.
Florida,
Back.
and then
Mhm.
back. Interesting drivers here that, and you know, as a matter of fact, it's similar to like Carrie, who talked about this back and forth, you know, out of Dakota. South Dakota, we're not gonna do. But for you, yeah, you hit 4 different places, and that in some ways maybe is telling of what drives our world at times.
100%, yeah.
Elaborate on it.
I mean, just what you're willing to, kind of like Carrie talked about, like what you're willing to sacrifice, like, do we make this move, do we not make this move, do we follow this job across the country? And you're 24 years old and you have no idea if this is the right thing to do, and you're packing everything in your car to go. You have no idea, but then you look back on it and you're like, wow, the hand of God was in every decision, every move. We have lifelong friends in every place we've lived that we still keep in touch with today, and so it was a total God thing, that whole path.
So you ended up back in Arizona. You
Yeah,
didn't
back
want to
in
go to
Prescott.
Flag because it was cold, if I recall, or colder than you wanted it to be.
Yep.
Okay. Even though, and this way, the grandparents can come down.
Yes,
and-
yep.
They're
yep.
close too.
Close, yep.
So what was the driving force to get back to Arizona?
Yeah, just we wanted to have kids. We wanted to start a family, and I felt like when we first got married, we had like 6 years or so of just traveling and fun, and like we just were having a great time. We were like, well, we gotta go start having kids. We gotta raise a family. We really want this. Let's go. But we didn't want to do it in Florida, so we wanted to didn't want to be across the country, so we came back to Prescott, and I started working at Mountain Valley Rehab Hospital in Prescott Valley, and was there full-time, and long hours, and we had just had our first daughter, who's now 8, and we remember talking through this, like, I was getting home at 6 at night, and by the time I pick up my daughter from daycare and come home, I'd like have an hour with her at the most, and I was like, this is not what it's supposed to be. This is just that mom guilt is a real thing, and
Mom guilt.
oh yeah, you're I was so focused on speech for so many years, and then you're like, we want to raise a family, and I'm like, I'm not raising my family. Daycare's raising my kids, and I get her for an hour.
I
You know.
think this is a good place to maybe take a quick pause and we'll wrap it up. But, and I'm going to offer the question this time. Mom guilt, because I think there is a number, well, I don't know, how many, is it 50-50 approximately, guys and girls in the senior class? What is it?
14, 12.
Girls? Higher?
14 girls, 12 guys.
Got it. Okay, so well over a majority. That took a long time to figure out. Will be affected with this sort of decision or contemplation in their life. And one of the reasons I thought it was so valuable for you to be up here is those are hard things to navigate. So we're not just say, hey, we're here for whatever business advice or whatever, how to be the best version of, entrepreneur you can be, but it takes those same innovative, creative, risk-taking, because you took them, both pursuing your career and in this big change we're going to talk about. Those are risky. And there may be a time, and it may not be today, well, it won't be, but they will glean back to you to say, and they're welcome to, I believe, say, how was that? What was it like? And I call you 10 years from now when I'm facing the same thing, right?
Yes, yeah.
Cool. So with that, you better ask them the question. What's the question?
Sure, the question is, how did you have to wrestle with this issue of a more holistic life related to family or health or decisions in your marriage, decisions about juggling not just pursuing the career, but also thinking about the other parts of life that make life worth living in terms of family and those kind of things? What kind of sacrifices did you make? What kind of decisions did you make? What kind of failures have you had in regards to that? Okay.
Okay, here we go again. Now, I want to take just a moment and back up just a little because we kind of rushed past a few career points. You spent a tremendous amount of time planning your education, planning for your jobs. Then you go, okay, location here. You take a job at Mountain Rehab or whatever you called it. And then you were at YRMC. And this touches on hard times. And YRMC was like 2020-ish. Share a little bit of that.
So working with adults in the speech world, you're usually in the intensive care units. I didn't know this about speech therapists. They just think you're working on S's and R's with kids. But at the hospital setting, you're working on swallowing and you're working on respiratory support, being able to communicate. But swallowing's the main piece in the hospital setting. And so I was in the COVID ICUs trying to get patients off of ventilators and trying to make sure they had the respiratory support to be able to speak and to be able to swallow and get back to eating and drinking. And 2020 hits, and I had been at YRMC for a handful of years, and 2020, I was your healthcare hero in the COVID ICU every day, and it's so unknown and so uncertain, and you're going home every day like, do I have COVID? Am I bringing? I don't know what I have, but it's just such a mess. And then 2021 comes around, and then all of a sudden the vaccine stuff comes out, and their rules were a mess because they were getting bought out at the time. And so they started saying, if you're not going to take the vaccine, you're going to get fired. And so I had hundreds of people quit. Hundreds of friends were quitting. And people all over the hospital. And then they start telling me, you got to sign these papers, and I was at a spot where I just wanted my no to be no. And they weren't, like, if I go in to do therapy with a patient, if they didn't want it, I had to respect that, and they could just say no. So I felt like my no just needed to be no. And anyway, it was just a mess. So for about 5 months, they would tell me every week or two, you're going to get fired, you're going to get fired. So I just said, well, I'm just going to keep showing up. I don't keep working. So I just kept showing up, and then finally, after 5 months of them telling me I was gonna be fired, they stood at the front door with security and then took my badge and walked me back out. So, so I was
That's
one of,
rather abrupt.
it was very abrupt, yeah. I mean, they kept saying it was coming, but I just thought, okay, let's just get through this and maybe, you know, and I was on track to be the therapy director, like I was super career, it was just, that was it. Speech was like my whole world. And then, yeah, one day it was like, no, you don't get to come into the building today. And it's like, okay, this is the day. And the crazy part, another hand of God moment, is Trinity. I'm sitting in the Home Depot parking lot after getting fired, just total shock that I was like, okay, this is where we're at. What are we gonna do? My husband owns a landscape company, but we had never thought about one income and having 2 kids at the time. And Trinity calls. And my daughter had gotten accepted to kindergarten for her little assessment that morning after getting fired. And I was like, how are we gonna afford Trinity? Is this our plan? You know, but such a God thing that, like, we knew that that was what we wanted and we were so excited for it. But it was that morning that I got that phone call. It was so wild. So just another God thing, you know.
Amazing
And then
how
here we, yeah. It was,
in one day, the hard and the high,
yes,
hand in hand.
yeah,
And really, hand in hand, but really in the hand of God.
100%.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just, what a great story. Thanks for
Mhm.
sharing, because
yeah.
those fiery moments are tough.
Oh, yeah. I think it was such a lesson in that you're replaceable and you're exchanging your time for a dollar value, which is fine, but you're replaceable. And I think if you don't know that you're replaceable in those, you just can kind of get ahead of yourself sometimes. So it's important to just have that reality of like, there are thousands of other people in this country that could come and step into this position right now. Like, you're replaceable. Where I'm not replaceable is as a mother of my 3 beautiful children. So that's where I had to just shift of like, I get the opportunity to be with my kids now. I'm not getting home at 6 at night. And there's no, I mean, that you just do what you have to do sometimes. But it like opened up our eyes to like, oh, I get to take my kids. I get to be home with my kids. I get to teach them these skills. I don't miss the firsts. I was getting all these firsts on video at daycare. It was like, oh, you know, I want to be the first to see the steps and do the pigtails and do the things. Like, but nope, those were happening away from me. So it was such a good shift and such a needed shift to recognize what my value was in being a mother and being a wife and being able to raise my kids the way we were intended to and what God's design was for our family. So
That's good. Thank you for sharing. Again, those hard times are hard to share at that gut level, that level of, it's almost, and I can see it, there's almost like emotion there thinking
oh yeah,
about,
yeah.
1, the fire, and 2, what a blessing it's been. There's just the up, the down, the sideways in there. So thank you for doing that. But I had a question about entrepreneurial. Oh yeah, I know what it was. So you're an entrepreneur in a unique way. You were a driver, you took risks in your education, your career moves, you took the risk on, and it may not sound like it, but you say, hey, I'm gonna let it be what it is on this, am I gonna get a vaccine or not? I'm gonna let my yes be yes, or my no, whichever side of that question you wanna be on. But a traditional entrepreneur, you're married to one.
I did.
Tell us just a glimpse. There was one thing you told me that just made me crack up. Do you know what it was?
No.
What did you have to research and listen to?
Oh, I started listening to podcasts about how to be the wife of an entrepreneur. I felt like my brain just doesn't operate the same way as an entrepreneur. And there were some, like, as decisions would be made or things we'd be, you know, facing these different things in business, that's not my world. My world was language and the hospital. I don't have the business acumen. I don't know. So I started to listen to podcasts and doing some reading about like how to be the spouse of an entrepreneur and how to be supportive in that and yeah, be able to support those decisions. And
I had never heard of that before, but
well, I didn't either until I started researching. Like, this is a real thing. Like I gotta learn about
Danette
this.
probably wishes she had
Yeah.
heard of it before, because there is a price you pay in life
Yeah.
being associated with one.
Yep.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Let's open up for a couple questions as we wrap up real quick.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to challenge you guys, whether adult, younger person, senior. Thoughts? Someone else has this
Can I
question?
share one last thought before we ask questions?
Share 3,
So-
and Amy's not having to take
I
notes.
know,
That's even
I
a
know.
blessing there.
One more hand of God moment. So my daughter, who's almost 1, back there with my mom, she was born with a cleft palate. And so I've been out of the speech world now for about 4 or 5 years, and still keeping up my stuff because I know one day I'll go back into that world. But my daughter's born with a cleft palate. It went undiagnosed at the beginning, and we couldn't quite figure out what was going on. And then we get this diagnosis, a cleft palate, so she's got this huge hole, no roof of her mouth, couldn't eat or drink or like nothing, and so we'll have some major speech delays. And I'm like, oh, there's a God thing. Like, there's a reason that I went into speech, and now my third child has a cleft palate, and we'll be able to navigate that, no problem. Like,
That's wild.
yeah,
Thanks for, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
yeah.
It's funny how when we see his hand, let me rephrase that. When we look for his hand, we see it everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, undeniable.
Yeah, and it's all to his glory, not our own. And I think we were so masterful in what we decided to do.
Right, I know, yeah.
Okay, so questions. We gave you guys a few minutes to come up with it. Someone step out there. Don't make me ask you. You've heard enough of me. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please. Introduce yourself again, please.
Yeah, I'm Haley, and I was just wondering, like, what steps did you take to, like, find value in being a mother, like, coming from a really successful standpoint?
I would say community. Like Drew over here has walked, we've both walked this journey for many years in different seasons that we're in. But I think just having friends that value family, that value God's design for family, that value the gift of motherhood, and to be able to do life alongside with them, helps you keep your priorities straight and helps you remember what's important. I feel like that has been the biggest for me, is just having community with you through those, yeah.
Life together, huh?
Yeah,
God's design.
yeah, yeah.
Solitary confinement will kill you, but life together gives life.
Mhm.
That's good. Great question. Thank you, Haley. So, that was. Anyone else, please? Someone else, let me say, not anyone else.
And
Who's
I guess
next?
for the young, like women, like it's important to find a skill. It's important to find something that you really enjoy, that you bring value to the world. Like I feel like it's important, and I'm really grateful for my education and my work. But just know that like motherhood is such a gift, and like what Carrie said, one of the notes was, you don't know what you don't know. Until you have children, you don't know that the gift that they are and like who you'll become as a mother, but it's such a sweet and precious gift from God. So just like see it, like it's okay to have both. It's okay to be a mom, it's okay to be working, but like find your skill and what you're good at, what you enjoy, but then also know that like you have this gift of becoming a mother one day that you gotta hang on to. So
Pat, oh no, this is.
I'm gonna turn my microphone off.
I think if you can elaborate a little bit on, and I know it's not planned, right, but to go from, kind of super career focused to switch and go to super family focused. But like one of the things that I feel like we've learned through this is your skill that you do have. If you needed to get a job tomorrow, you could, because you have that. So spending those years, I mean, talk about that and kind of the decisions and things that have happened.
I don't know how to
Well, I
answer
mean,
that.
just, that wasn't the plan, but, we, instead of being like, you just want to be a mother, you
Yeah.
just want to do this, or you just want to do this, like, you've intermingled those
And just-
two.
And I would just say be ready to pivot. Like we just said, all the adults in the community that have come in today, nobody's had like the same thing for their entire life. You pivot and you switch, if that's like location or if that's actual career or if that's who you're working with. There's so many pivots, so like, I'm gonna be this, and you just think like it's this one track thing, like, oh, it is just not. You'll have to recognize like when to pivot and just how to shift your family and shift your decisions and,
That's great. Again, I want to thank you for stepping out of the comfort zone that you prefer, and a lot of people are that way, but you felt like it was important, and I appreciate that. I'm appreciative. I think they are, and they obviously, you are a living example of what this is done for, why we're doing Seeds and Water. For all sides. It is a movement in the direction I believe God wants us to, and that is connection together, not one way. both ways, intergenerational.
Mhm.
And there is a lot that we, as older people, glean from this. And I'm in prayer, and I believe there's a lot the younger folks do too. So let's thank Kelly. And Terry knows he did a good job because we already thanked him. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, even though you had to be. And be thinking about your questions. Think about your questions for next time.